Lucy Craft Laney wasn't dangerous because she was educating black children. She was dangerous because she taught them how to think for themselves. And that's the part history keeps soft-pedaling. Lucy Craft Laney was born in 1854 in Georgia to parents who had been enslaved, where this country had already decided how far her mind and her future were allowed to go. And she said absolutely not. She opened the Haynes Institute in Augusta in 1883. She wasn't interested in teaching black kids to be acceptable. She wasn't training them to follow instructions quietly. She was training them to question. And that's when things got uncomfortable. Because Lucy Craft Laney didn't believe education was about memorizing answers. She believed it was about asking the right questions. Why does the system exist? Who benefits from it? Who wrote these rules and who didn't get a vote? That kind of education changes people. She taught literature so students could interpret meaning, not just read words. She taught math so they could understand logic, not just calculate. She taught science so they could evaluate evidence, not just accept claims. And Latin wasn't about tradition. It was about training the mind to recognize structure, argument, and power. Lucy Craft Laney understood something that this country still doesn't like to admit. You can control people who are programmed to obey, but you lose control the moment people are programmed to reason. And that put her at odds with the dominant thinking of the time. Because even then, the message was educate black people just enough to work, not enough to challenge authority. And she rejected that completely. She believed that black students deserved intellectual rigor, not watered down lessons, not practical only training, but full access to critical thinking. Because that's how you build leaders, not labor. And let's be real about the risk, right? Teaching black children how to think in Jim Crow Georgia meant that they would eventually start asking, why are we segregated? Why are laws unequal? Why does power look the way it does? That's why her school was underfunded. That's why she was constantly fighting for resources. That's why her work was watched. But she didn't back down. She didn't lower standards. She didn't soften the curriculum. She didn't apologize. She just kept building. And her students, they didn't just graduate. They became teachers, organizers, professionals, people who multiplied what she started. That's how you change a future. So when you hear people say, why didn't black communities value education? Think about Lucy Craft Laney, a black woman in the 1800s teaching critical thinking while this country was terrified of black minds waking up. And that's the real reason her name isn't louder. Because once you admit that Lucy Craft Laney existed, you have to stop pretending that black brilliance was ever the problem. She didn't teach people their place. She taught them how to outgrow it. Say her name, Lucy Craft Laney.